So tonight I wanted to tell you a bit more about a piece of research we've done with one of my colleagues around creativity. We spent many months looking at the creative process of some of the most amazing creative leaders to try and map out their journey and find some similarities and try to see if there's some elements that we can incorporate into our daily life. And we didn't want to do the Steve Jobs and all those guys, 'cause it has been done and no one cares. So we actually wanted to look at creative leaders and creative thought leaders coming from a wide range of backgrounds and industry. So we wanted a very all-inclusive approach to creativity. So one of the first elements we found during this piece of research, we looked at Miyazaki, the Japanese filmmaker. Have you heard of him? Yeah. Spirited Away, Pagnon. And we found that throughout his work there was a very deep connection with children and kids, and he actually featured in every single of his movies children. So we tried to map out and understand why that was the case, and when we did that we essentially figured out that he actually spent hours and hours and hours discussing with children before making any new movie. And when we drilled a bit deeper, we essentially found out that empathy was one of the key elements of the success of his movies. He was actually leaving the whole plot of his movies, spending time drilling down. So that was a very interesting takeout. Another one we found was that Miyazaki loves traveling, walking, fan of architecture, and loves meditating. So we thought, how does that feed into his creative outlets? And what we found is if you watch some of his movies, you see that essentially the sets and the surroundings are essentially a key component of the whole movie. So essentially gaining inspiration from what surrounds you and the things that are around you are a key component of creativity. Another element we looked at, we studied Dr. Baccio, who is an amazing cancer researcher based in the US. She created one of the first cancer detection test, amazing work. And we're looking at her team and her whole lab, and one of the key components we found that you find across the board is that her team is very much multidisciplinary. You've got a team of 20 people, more than 15 different nationalities, anthropologists, researchers, scientists, engineers. And this mix of people is essentially enabling her to do amazing work and getting perspective from different fields. So in your creative outlets and projects, don't stay in your own silos and try to explore what someone else is doing and feed this information into your project. Another element we found that was interesting was around experimenting. We actually looked at Adrian Ferra. Does anyone know who he is? He's a 3-star Michelin chef in Spain. He had El Bulli restaurant, which is sadly closed now. Didn't manage to get a table before closed down, shattered about that. But one thing we found is that throughout his work and on daily basis, he conducts an insane amount of experiments. Every day he walks into work, goes into his test kitchen, tries out new things, from trying to cook ingredients in a new way, trying new ingredient combination. So that's what he does on a daily basis, and that's what it takes to be the best in the world in that field. So when you're doing creative work, try to experiment and try new things and try to put things together that you think are a bit odd or a bit of a mismatch. Another component was around nurturing talent. We looked at Bunker Roy, who is one of the most amazing social entrepreneurs back in India. And he spends all his time trying to teach grandmother in India how to create solar panels and essentially empowering local community to make use of what they've got to create a more sustainable society. And creativity is very much about work, and you have to put in the effort and the work. It just doesn't happen just like that. You have to put in the effort. And around nurturing, you see that he spends a lot of his time nurturing the local community, whether it's training them, trying to teach new skills, trying to empower them. So creativity is a bit like a tree, you need to water it, you need to maintain it, you need to sustain it. Another component around creativity and innovation that is just a massive advantage is around open innovation. Adrian Ferra, an amazing chef, spends a lot of his time documenting his whole process and writing sketches and documenting. He actually has a massive library of samples and combination. It's a bit like a science lab. And what the guy did, which is brilliant, is to actually form a partnership with Telefonica, which is a Spanish telco company, to essentially open source his whole approach and making the whole content available. So through this foundation, they've spent a lot of time trying to map out the creative process, and by making the whole thing open source, you're able to go online, see how Adrian Ferra does it, and apply some of those learnings into the way you solve a problem. And the last element is very much around, we tend to put a lot of focus around different types of thinking and trying to pick one methodology and follow through with it. And I think you tend to have people that follow thinking like religious. I think it's a bit like a cult almost, like the lean-in startup methodology. People are so addicted and they buy all the steps and try to follow through. But you know, be a bit more critical and use critical thinking the way you approach that, and try to pick the best from each of those type of thinking and make it your own, and blend and merge those things together to really be a change maker. So that's my piece of advice. Don't stick to one, try to get the best from all of the speakers tonight. Thank you.